Hi, so at the moment I'm on a bit of a quest to use up some of my existing stash before I start buying more. We all have these things. We have paper and card and fabric, rubber stamps, and we use them and then we put them away and we either forget about them or we just go and buy more stuff. So over the last few weeks I've been showing how to make little projects, and I've been using card and paper that I've got in my supplies. Then in a video recently, I showed you how to make the little tissue pockets from 2 pieces of fabric, and that's on my YouTube channel if you want to go and have a look for that. But this week I thought I'd try another little project, again using some scrap fabric and some scrap felt. Now, what I tend to do is when I use fabric or felt with my ScanNCut machine, I put heat and bond on the back of it and I cut the project, and rather than throw the leftovers away, I keep them. So this is all my stash. This is what we're going to use in this next project, but this has already got the heat and bond ironed on the back. But basically what I normally do is I normally just put it back on the carrier sheet and I store it all, and you can see I've got all bits of different coloured fabrics and felt, all with the heat and bond on the back. And I just keep them all in this little plastic Ziploc bag. So one of my other things I like to do is look around Pinterest, and I saw a design like this on Pinterest. It was just a photograph. It'll be on my Pinterest board somewhere. And from memory, it didn't lead to a project or anything like that. It was just a picture from Flickr or something like that. And I thought it was quite a good little idea, simple idea. And I just thought, well, circles, so easy to create with ScanNCut. Let's cut them in felt. So today I'm going to show you how I created this little gift bag. Now, it could be, you could sew it up, you could put lavender in it. This has got chocolates in it, but it's just a very, very simple, it's a real beginner project. This has just got some lint chocolates in it. If you was going to put something like lavender in it, what I would do is put your lavender in and then sew across to seal it and then gather it up. So this just takes a small scrap of calico and a bit of felt. So what I've done to save a bit of time, my calico is 11 inches by 8 inches, so 11 inches wide by 8 inches high. You could cut this with a pair of pinking shears. I've cut it with a rotary cutter, and what I've also done is gone around all the 4 edges with a serger. But if you don't have a serger, you may have an overcasting stitch on your machine, or if you've not got that, a zigzag stitch. You could go all around the edges because it's not lined, this little bag. So you want it to be kind of finished, you know, half decent inside. But as I say, pinking shears would do the same. It would stop it from fraying. So I've serged around all the edges. Apart from the initial measurement, 11 by 8, which again you can alter, I'm not really going to do any measuring at all. So basically what I've done, I've ironed over very, very roughly, just over ½ an inch, somewhere over 1/4, but not quite a ½ inch here on this short side, and again on here. And then I've folded it in half and pressed it just to give me a middle point. And then we're going to fold the top down to create this section here, which is then going to enable us to put some thread through. So again, I've folded this bit down just about 1.5 inches and I've pressed it. And the reason I've done that now is so that I can fold everything over, and it gives me more of an idea of where to put my design. On this one, I didn't do it this way, and it's ever so slightly off center, but once it's pulled together, it's not that noticeable. You need to use, unless you, I'm going to do a bit of freehand sewing with my machine. So, you know, unless you're really good at it, you can just go for it. But what I did, I used, the ScanNCut comes with pens, as we know, and there are also 2 pens that can be used on fabric. One is water erasable, which I think is this blue one, and I can never remember, so I've just written a W on with a Sharpie. So I hope I've got them the right way around. I think I have, because I used it on this one yesterday and they've disappeared. and the purple one is the air erasable, so that's the one that I'm going to use. And basically what I did, I just drew 5 lines, so I kind of started about an inch up from the bottom centrally to my design. You don't want to be going where this folds over here. I'll turn it over this way. You don't want to be really going higher than that with your circles, because you're going to have to sew that down at some point. So you want your lines to be something like that, and then you're going to cut your circles. So I'll just put that away, and this is the pen holder, if you haven't seen it, that you can use with your regular pens in your machine. I'm going to get my ScanNCut mat, and this is just, as I say, a piece of scrap felt that's got the heat and bond already on it. I'm going to apply it to this mat, which is quite sticky, and I'm going to burnish it down with the back of the handle from the spatula. One thing about fabric or felt, well, with anything really, you've got to make sure it's fully adhered to your card, but more so with felt or fabric, because you need a higher blade and pressure than you would think, and you need to get... Every time I do a video, that chicken cuckoo clock goes off, I'm sorry. Anyway, as I was saying, you need to get through it in one go. So I'm just going to put this into the machine. Okay, I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to see, but I have done other videos where I cut felt. But basically, I've got my blade on just over 7. This mat and this blade are nearly 12 months old. I got my machine on the 3rd of March 2014, and I'm still on the original blade and still on the original mat. You can see my mat's all patched up on the back, and I'm still on, as I say, the original blade. So normally I would cut felt on blade 7 with a cut pressure of 9. I've got my blade set at about 7 1/4 because, as I say, it is nearly 12 months old. I'm going to go into the wrench icon. I'm going to scroll to the second page, and I'm going to take my cut pressure up to 9 and say OK. Then I'm going to go into patterns. I'm going to go into the first option and down to page 3 and choose a circle, and I'm going to take the circle down to 0.50, so ½ an inch in height. And I'm going to say I want 15. Yeah, because I've drawn 5 stalks on my design and I want 3 circles for each, so I need 15 circles. And I'm going to say set. And then I'm just going to move them around. In fact, no, I don't need to, because they're all cut on the top there. I'm going to scan this just to make sure they all line up. And say OK, and they all look as though they do. So I'm going to say cut. Okay, I'm going to say OK and unload. Just push that out of the way. Okay, so here are the 15 circles all cut. I've peeled them off the mat just to save some time. I'm going to set the sewing machine up, and I'm now going to sew these lines, and then we'll position these and put them on with the iron, and then we can make the rest of the bag. Okay, I've swapped tables. I'm at my sewing machine, and just to save a bit of time, I've threaded it up, and I'm going to start doing some free motion quilting. Now, I'm not an expert. This is just the way I do it. Basically, I'm going to start at the bottom of these lines that I drew. I'm going to come up the line and down, and then move on to the next one and come back down, go back up the next one, come back down, and do all the 5 lines. So hopefully this should work. Just going to move that stray thread out of the way and back up the next line. And it doesn't matter if it's not straight, it's meant to be a bit rough and ready. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. You could go over it more than twice, I'm just doing it for speed really. So that's what we've got so far. I'm going to put the felt pieces on here now and iron them on, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so this is where we're at so far. I've positioned the felt circles on the ends of these stems. Just got a piece of stray calico, placed it over the top and then just pressed it with the iron. It doesn't need long. Heat and bond is like a very thick sheet of glue. And then I opened it up and hit it with the iron from the underside as well. So that's where we're at so far. So what we're going to do now is these two little edges that I turned in here and here, I'm just going to sew down close to this edge just to hold them in place. And if the screen has suddenly gone darker or brighter, I have to apologise. When I was filming on the other desk with the ScanNCut machine, it was dull and I had the lights on, and now the sun's come shining through the glass roof here in this part of the room. So I can only apologise if the screen has changed a little. So I'm just going to sew as close as I can now to this edge, just to hold this down with a regular straight stitch. That's one side and just do the other. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of a few of these tails. Okay, so that's where we're at so far. We've sewn this side down and this side down. So what we're going to do now is fold over the top towards the wrong side about 1.5 inches. We're going to sew close to this edge all the way along, and then we're going to sew from that stitch line that we're going to do now. We're going to then sew about 1/2 inch away and do another stitch line. So I'll do the first one and then I'll show you. So that's the right side, this is the wrong side, and we've folded about 1.5 inches down on the wrong side. I'm just going to move my needle over on my machine so I can get closer to this edge. And I'm using the edge of the foot against the edge of this fabric. If you can't move your needle position, just move your foot and position it yourself. As I say, we're not doing exact measurements with this because at the end of the day it's just a little gift bag, you know, that you might want to put a small scented soap in, or a candle, or even some chocolates like I did. So that's what we've got so far now. And this is our line we've sewn here. So I'm going to line up the edge of my foot with this line we've just sewn, and I'm going to move my needle over so that we can sew about a ½ inch from here. We're going to sew kind of along here somewhere. Again, if you can't move your needle, just move your foot accordingly and do a straight line. You could actually just leave it like that and thread your ribbon through like that, but I like the effect it gives by having a little bit of a kind of a ruffle at the top before the channel starts. Okay, so far we've kind of got two channels. We've got a big channel here and a little channel, and it's the little channel we're going to use to thread our ribbon through in a few minutes. Just get rid of that stray thread. Now we're going to put it right sides together. We're going to sew along the bottom and up the side, but when we come up the side we're going to stop at this first line of stitching that we did here, that we fastened this flap down with, because we don't want to come up here, else we'll not be able to get our thread in it. So I'm going to turn it over and start from that side. I'm going to start from here, from this first line, this bottom, and leave all this open. And I'm just going to go back now to my regular needle position, which is it, with the needle in the middle of my foot. I'm going to stop and I'm going to pivot and come along. And that's it. I'm going to turn it inside out. I'll just move that out of the way. Just going to poke out the corners. You might have to ease your corner out here because we've kind of got a double row where we turned in those short sides at the beginning. Then you need a pin and about 18 inches of ribbon. That's all. You don't need a lot, or anything else. You could use string, something like this, jute string. I think I'm going to swap desks because of the sun, so just give me a minute. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see this a bit better now. I'm not sure what the light was like on the other side. So I've put a bit of ribbon onto a biggish safety pin, and we're just going to go into this bottom channel, the one nearest to the bottom of this inside that we turned in, and push this pin with this ribbon, hopefully all the way through without it coming undone. And the reason that I did these, turned this over on the short sides at the beginning, was so that you have a neat finish here. Otherwise you'd have the raw edge, or in my case you'd have the serged edge. Right, so I'm just going to trim so that's our little bag, and then you can just pull it together. And that's it. And this little ruffle at the top is because we did that extra channel down here. So if I take the chocolates out of the first one, and put them in here and draw this up, there are the two. As I say, it's quite big. The actual area that you have to put something in is 5 inches by about 4.5 inches, so 5 inches high before the thread bit starts and 4.5 inches wide. So you could get one of those handmade soaps or those Yankee candles, or the melts I think would fit in there, or even probably a small little box of chocolates, or just some loose ones like this, and then, you know, tie it up, do whatever you want with it. So I hope you found that helpful. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.